Today on TLC Live, we're analyzing the results of Houston municipal elections. Jeronimo Cortina, associate professor of University of Houston, Department of Political Science, will be with us. Also, we don't only have a new mayor in Houston, but also Julian Ramirez, who was just elected Houston City Council at large, position number 1. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to TLC Live. As every Wednesday, I'm Andrea Gomez.
And I'm Orlando Sanchez. Not as successful as Julian, but fun nonetheless.
Well, good morning, Orlando. How's everything in Montana?
It's good. Nice weather, and looking forward to the program. And thank you, Professor Cortina, for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So
No,
let's
thank
start
you,
off.
Professor Cortina.
Why Julian and not Orlando? No, what's interesting. What's interesting is that both Julian and Roy had pretty good numbers, and we're all considered on the conservative side, and so I'm wondering what your analysis why Julian's and Roy's race was so tight, and even Willie Davis, who identifies as a conservative African American, and yet I lagged substantially behind. So what do you attribute that to?
Well, that's a very interesting question, and of course, congratulations, Orlando. I mean, it takes a lot of guts to run a campaign, and I know that you're very well prepared to have won this campaign. You have all the credentials, and that's democracy, and that's what it is. So glad to hear that, and also to Julian Ramirez, congratulations. Very interesting race. So I think there's a couple of things. One of the things, starting with the numbers, these races, especially in this position, in the at-large position, were very, 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 very close. 2,500 or 2,565 votes, if I remember correctly, in case of council member elect Ramirez. So two things start from here. One is that low turnout was a key indicator, and perhaps in certain parts of the city, the lower turnout helped a number of candidates in terms of who actually went out and turned out. So this indicates that elections are important, and a few thousand votes can make all the difference. So running a good campaign, sticking to the issues, so on and so forth, creates this environment in which candidates, if they run a successful campaign, are going to be running in terms of the issues. The other important part, I think, is that overall, in the mayoral, your race, the controller race, members of city council races, the issues were very clear, right? The issues were, well, we are facing a fiscal cliff next year, public safety, infrastructure, streets, so on and so forth. So the issues were clear and were not necessarily very politically charged, ideologically charged issues that allows the voters to basically, in my opinion, to concentrate on the issues rather on the political polarization that we live in other at the state level or even at the national level. So I think that's initial my assessment of what happened during this election. And obviously you have the mayoral race, you have one very polarizing candidate, Congresswoman Jackson Lee, and then you have a more moderate candidate, Mayor-elect Whitmire, that over his political career has been able to create political bridges among Democrats, among Republicans. And I think that the appetite of the Houston electorate is like, we don't want we don't want any more divisions. We want to concentrate on the issues, while Sheila Jackson Lee perhaps tried to bring national level issues, abortion, immigration, so on and so forth, that perhaps for this particular election did not resonate. Next year, obviously, they're going to resonate, but this year did not resonate.
Professor Cortina, what do you attribute the low participation? I mean, we saw low participation not only on the elections, but also in the runoff.
I mean, it's first of all, I mean, it's something that happens in every municipal election. Is not, significantly different. The significance here is that the electorate has grown dramatically, and obviously we keep at the same levels, a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but it's still a problem, and that has been a problem historically in Houston. Part of the, I think, of the lack of enthusiasm was that the campaign was very civil, and to me that's a very good indication of how political campaigns should be. Discuss the issues, discuss how we're going to pay, discuss what we need to cut, and then move forward in terms of how we can implement these new ideas. There was turnout in different areas of the city, especially among older voters that tend to be a little bit more conservative. That's what we have seen. But in other parts of the city, turnout was also higher in terms of supporting perhaps some of the candidates that tended to be more on the progressive liberal side.
Orlando.
Well, Julian, how do you feel this morning? And I know you get a few days break before you get sworn in and then get to work. But I'm delighted for you. I mean, I've shared some responsibility in dragging you into the political world. I've been after you for years. I always thought that you'd be a great candidate, whether it be a judge or whether now it's serving on the legislative side. But your victory, how does this feel for you?
Well, it's so gratifying, Orlando, to work so hard, really for 2 years and have it pay off. And yes, I owe a great debt to you for your help and advice, certainly in the campaign and, long term. But it was a very competitive race. I worked really hard, and it's just so gratifying to see it all pay off in the end.
Good. Well, I know you did because I saw you everywhere. I mean, there wasn't much that you missed, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy the next few days and a couple of weeks before you get sworn in and then really have to go to work. But I'm really happy for you, and just congratulations. I'm sure you can't wait to get to work.
I'm excited and anxious to get to work, Orlando. And yes, but there's not a whole lot of rest right now. As you may remember, I've got to fill a staff, and I'm working on that. I just finished 2 full days of orientation where we drank out of a fire hose, hearing presentations from the different departments within the city and in preparation for getting to work. Now, one thing I do want to add, Professor, my margin was actually a lot smaller than what you mentioned. We oftentimes forget that part of Houston lies within Fort Bend County, and that Fort Bend County vote is heavily Democrat and African American. And so my opponent had a 2,200 vote advantage in the part of Houston that is in Fort Bend County. So if you look at the overall totals, my margin of victory was 338 votes, right? So that is slim by anyone's measurement. And I think the total number of votes cast in my race approach 180,000, right? So that's a very slim margin. And so the significance of that for me is that everything we did was critical to winning this race. The block walking, the get out the vote effort the last couple of days before the election, the Chronicle endorsement of all things, right? How often do they endorse a conservative? But I got that endorsement, and I think that was big among moderates and soft Democrats, if you will. Everything we did mattered, and to me that is so gratifying, because I've heard people tell you, if you're running citywide, don't bother block walking. It's not going to matter. You can't reach enough people. Well, I did, right? And they might tell you, well, don't bother working the polls from 7 to 7 every day during early voting because, it's not going to matter. Well, it did. I probably picked up that number of votes standing in the parking lot, engaging with voters, knocking on doors. And certainly, I can't leave out all the work that my volunteers did throughout the campaign, doing exactly the same thing, sending out emails to their friends, messages to their friends, sharing my stuff on social media. It all came together. It all mattered, and that to me makes it special.
Oh, absolutely. And you're 100% right. I was just referring to Harris County,
Right.
both different,
Yeah.
but you're 100%. And that's more to my point that, in this H&H, some candidates tend to think that block walking doesn't matter, going out or knocking on vote doesn't matter because you have social media. But social media and votes are two completely different things. You need people at the polls voting for one candidate. So I applaud you. That was a well-run campaign, especially throughout the whole city. But if I may ask you a question now that I have you
Sure.
an
You bet.
academic, given this margin, it's how do you plan to govern and engage the city? I mean, you're clearly your mandate, it's on your platform, but obviously the city is divided in this case. So are you going to focus on the issues? What's going to be what's next in terms of working with a new mayor? City council has now more power to put items on the agenda, so I think it's going to be a very interesting dynamic that I'm very excited to see, because now we're going to have this balance of power between city council and the mayor. So I'm just curious to see what's your take so far.
Well, interestingly, Professor, almost all of the candidates focused on the very same issues that people care about: public safety, roads and infrastructure, flooding mitigation, and I harped a lot on cronyism and corruption in government. There was not a huge divide on the issues that candidates talked about. And so that's going to continue to be my focus going forward, representing the entire city. I'm glad that John Whitmire was elected mayor. I voted for him. I think his platform was more in line with what residents want and need. And hearing him from time to time on the campaign, I liked a lot of what he said. If he follows through on that, I'll be happy to support him. But as an at-large council member, I stressed the importance of being an independent voice on those occasions when the mayor proposes something that is not in the city's best interest, to be able to speak out in a way that our district council members cannot. So that's going to be my focus going forward, and I'm just excited to get to work.
Julian,
Professor, one
congratulations.
question that I have for you. We touched about low voter turnout, but as the city continues to grow with respect to one ethnic group, and that's the Hispanic population, and I've been doing this since 1992, when the eligible Hispanic population wasn't what it is today. Now it's exploded. The people that moved here in the 90s now have children that are old enough to vote. Why do we continue to lag so dramatically in the Hispanic community? What can be done to raise awareness of the importance of voting?
Well, I mean, I've been studying that for the past 20 years, and we still have no answer. But I think, we have seen progress, and that progress is very encouraging in one sense. I think, having candidates like Julian Ramirez, having candidates that represent, the community one way or the other is extremely important. Why? Because that creates, I guess, a demand in terms of political participation. On the other hand, the supply of candidates is extremely important. We have talked in this program about, the role that political parties play, right? And the role that political parties play is creating those, the new leadership that is going to take the reins of the party or the elections in the next 10, 15 years. So political parties need to start working on that today, and yesterday was the deadline. So that is important, and then that would allow the supply of candidates, but also the demand for certain type of candidates that represent the needs, the wants, the preferences. And political parties need to be very attuned to, who is running at what time and what are the characteristics of a particular district or the city or the issues. And Julian Ramirez just mentioned it, as I mentioned at the beginning of the program, it was, this campaign was on the issues, and the issues were the same across every single race. All the mayoral forums that I attended was the same issues, and there were no difference in the candidates in terms of the issues. Some issues in terms of how you arrive to solve, public safety, infrastructure, so on and so forth. But the issues was an issue-centered election, and I think that's something important, and that's a big distinction between what we have here or happen here on the national level.
As they say,
Um,
there's a silver lining because we tripled the number of Hispanics on the city
Yep.
council, and we've done something we haven't done in a long time, and that is elect an at-large member. Now we have 2 district members, so
Yep.
there is some good news there.
Oh,
what is your
absolutely. I
thoughts
think.
in the media involved in the elections? What is your thoughts? I mean, I know, Jeronimo, you're being several times in the Spanish media. They bring you as a political analysis and things like that. But what is your thoughts, Julian and Jeronimo? What is your thoughts about the participation and really involved in the media, in the local media? They're really doing a good job because it's a combination. Sometimes, Julian was saying he was like walk blocking and also doing social media. But my point, it's like I don't think the local media are doing enough to inform the community.
In
Well, I
particular,
would
the
agree with
Hispanic
you.
media.
I would agree with you, Andrea. Outside of an appearance on Channel 26, they have a program called "What's Your Point" at 7 a.m. on Sunday mornings. I watch it every chance I get, where they interviewed each candidate in the runoff, and the Chronicle endorsement. Those were the big things media-wise in my campaign. But a lot of people can't complain that it's really hard to find information about the candidates, and part of it is they don't know where to look. The League of Women Voters does a good job of getting answers from the candidates and posting them. AARP, a lot of people may not know this, but AARP gets a video screening interview of candidates and puts it out on their website. So part of it is knowing where to look, but I think in large part the media can do a better job of informing the public about the candidates.
Julian, were you ever interviewed by either Telemundo or Univision?
I was not, Orlando,
And,
and I
and let me
don't
just
remember
jump
being
in.
approached for an interview. Yeah.
Yeah, it's to me that's pathetic. I mean, and Andrea knows this is not my first time to complain that 2 major networks who have a license from the Federal Communications Commission to inform the community, particularly about civic affairs, do not even bother to interview Roy Morales, Julian Ramirez, Castillo, Orlando Sanchez. It's like it doesn't matter. And that to me is just unacceptable because in large measure, the way the public does get information is tuning in to the local media. And I just don't know how that can happen. Jeronimo, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, I think, again, it has, the local media participation has increased. Are we at the levels that we should be? Absolutely 100% no way. And I think, there was some involvement, especially at the mayoral level. Univision had debate, Telemundo, so on and so forth. So, you get those things. But I completely agree that, media involvement is important. It's basically what we're asking is to change the way that a industry works, especially local media news organizations work. And I think it's going to take a lot of time, but also a lot of, the public needs to understand what is at stake, and local media needs to understand what is at stake. I mean, just take the city, right? The city of Houston. Julian Ramirez, all the members of city council, the mayor are going to make decisions, multi-billion-dollar decisions that are going to affect us directly,
Hmm.
in such a way that is very, very, very important for the people to make a rational decision or an educated decision for whom they're going to vote. If my candidate is proposing like, oh, we're going to have, citizens going and take care of potholes, I'm going to say like, no, I'm not going to vote for this candidate, right? I want someone to take care of these things, corruption, so on and so forth. So I think that as we move the needle forward, as we, the community, the Latino community, starts to grow and show more participation, right? Because that's also on us, that we need to include more participants and motivate people to go out and vote, then the media is going to pick it up. But I totally agree. We need to have more involvement and say, this is your candidate. Whether you vote for him, her, it's fine. But this is what they are proposing. You make your choice.
And I'm gonna tell you something, Jeronimo and Orlando. I met you guys back in my time at Univision when I was a news anchor, and I think we were doing a better job before than now in the media. I think the reporters, the anchors were doing more, and the producers were more aware of doing more in politics and inform the community. We were going every Wednesday to city council to cover politics. We were going to criminal justice center to cover the cases. We were doing a better job. I don't know what happened after social media start booming and we have more platform and we have more choices, that the media is like the traditional media is like trying to compete with these platforms, which is more entertainment than informative. So what is your thoughts?
Well, certainly there is a transition, right, in terms of how content is being delivered. Cable, as we know it, it's a dying industry per se. So now is more, digital communications, and by that is, through your Roku, this platform, uh, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So content now is more dynamic, and content needs to be adapted in terms of what the people want to be watching. Um, so now, for example, some of the local mini news, you get your app, you get content, you have two different streams of content. One that could be news, one that could be something else. But I think that there is an effort on local media to try to understand how to transition into that and how to deliver more content that is important. And one of the things that I've always say is, you know, especially the big two networks, right, at the national level, Telemundo and Univision. We always complain, oh, we don't get, enough attention from politicians and everything. Well, yes, but you need to have people that are following, right? For example, the White House, or that are following the State Department 24/7, like many other national news organizations. And
Hmm.
once you are, investing into that, then, right, they're going to be starting paying attention to you. And
Absolutely.
that's an education process that has to be on what we demand of content on the one hand, and then what they're going to be supplying.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right on that. They always complain that the politicians are not investing or not buying commercials or not. They're like they only invest on the English stations. But it's a two-way street. It's
Right.
not just one way. If you want the politicians to invest in TV ads, well, you need to invest on them too. You need to interview them. You need to give them enough time and equal time to all the candidates and inform the community and also give them the chance to expose or to put the platform and to the community. So I think it's
Correct.
and that's what especially the Spanish media is having a big problem on that.
Correct. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, Professor, I'll just say, and Julian can speak on his behalf, but I always find it interesting that when you're on the campaign trail, that when you engage citizens, they'll spend 10 minutes talking to you about a complaint. Either the garbage isn't picked up on time, the dumping in the Fifth Ward, how long they had to wait for a police officer. They'll go on and on and on. Yet it literally takes 2 minutes to vote and make a difference, they'll spend 10 minutes complaining but won't take 2 minutes to vote. It's just, to me, it's just absolutely mind boggling.
Yeah, I've never run anything in my life, so but I see what you're saying. I don't know what uh, Julian
Yeah.
thinks about it, but
Well, I think there's a perception among a lot of people that politicians, elected officials, are not very responsive. I kind of think that if we spent more time reaching out where they are, engaging them, and trying to meet their needs and requests, they might take more interest in it. But a lot of people think, well, my vote doesn't matter, and it doesn't matter. They're all the same. Things are not going to change, and so I think that's part of the apathy and the low turnout.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we don't
So,
want to keep you guys too long. That wraps up most of my questions. Professor Cortina, you're always very generous. Thank you for being on the program. Julian, I can't be prouder of about your outcome and the fact that you took time to participate in our Leadership Latino class, which is what we're trying to do is educate more Hispanics and to get involved in local politics. And Andrea will come up with mention the upcoming class. So hopefully you will serve as an encouragement for younger Latinos to take the Leadership Latino class and be able to participate. So
You
to
bet.
both of you, thank you very much and congratulations again. Andrea, I'll turn it back over to you.
okay, well, call to action, guys, before we go off the air. Jeronimo, call to action, and then Julian, I want to hear not only call to action, but what is going to be the first thing that you're going to do?
I mean, very simple. We need to participate. If we don't go out and vote in every single election, then we cannot complain. And being part of a democracy is that we need to be active participants in this democratic process. So I think it's extremely important not only to register, but actually to take time and vote.
Thank you, Professor Cortina. Julian, call to action, and we want to hear what is the first thing that you're going to do as soon as you take office.
Well, call to action would be, folks, stay involved. Demand more of your elected officials and look at what they're doing. And as far as what I'm going to do first, I want to meet with the mayor and talk about funding for the crime lab and to reduce the backlog that we have there. That's a huge problem. Didn't get much attention in the campaign. I think I was the only one talking about it. So I want to have a serious conversation about how we solve that, because it's making Houston less safe. And I think it should be an important part of our public safety response.
Great. Well, thank you, both of you, for your time. And I know you guys have a busy, busy day. And Julian, I know you're not gonna have enough vacations.
No, not for a while.
Not for a while. Well, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you
Well,
You
for
bet.
having
Great
Orlando,
to see you guys.
great to see you. Okay, Orlando. Well, what is the next step in Orlando Sanchez now after this campaign?
Well, stay focused on what our mission has been over the last few years, and that is more involvement in the Latino community. We took it was actually very difficult, as you know, Andrea, to run the political action committee across the state of Texas and campaign for public office. So the good news is that I can focus 100% now on what we were doing. Not that we were still involved. We had the No Lo Sabia campaign. We've been recruiting candidates. We have former mayor of Del Rio, Robert Garza, running for state representative. We excited about the prospects of electing somebody that's a little more conservative in Valverde County. We have all of our state representatives like Ryan Guillen and John Lujan to protect. So we have a lot of work to do. So I'll just stay focused on the PAC and continue to, mold and help recruit the next generation of leaders in the state of Texas. So that's our focus, and I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And talking about that, we have a Leadership Latino class coming up at the end of January. So you can find all the information in our website, texaslatinoconservatives.com, texaslatinoconservatives.com. You're going to find the Leadership Latino program. It's at the top of the of the main page. So you just click there, register. It's at no cost. You can learn from A to Z how to be a leader in your community, how to be the voice in your community, how to run for office, from the moment that you register your name till campaigning, fundraiser, ethics, and media training, everything that you need when it comes to run for office. So Leadership Latino is going to be at the end of um, January here in Houston. Not only is at no cost, but also we are sponsor the hotel. We are giving you guys up to $200 on transportation, either if you're driving from other city in Texas, and we pay with pretty much for the gas, or if you want to fly, we pay up to $200. So but the most important thing is what you're gonna learn. How are you gonna become not only a leader in your community, but also if you wanna run for office or you wanna get involved in any campaign in your city. This is the best way to do it. We need to participate. We need to train the new leaders in our community, the new voices in our community, not only Latinos. Of course, we're calling Latinos to represent the community, but if you're not Latino, also you can come to this class. So again, it's texaslatinoconservatives.com. You just go to Leadership Latino and register. It's going to be at the end of January. It's going to be the dates and all the information that you need to that program, Leadership Latino. We have Mayra Flores, that she's a graduate. We have just Julian Ramirez, that also is a graduate from the class. Also Roy Morales and many other leaders in the community that not only running for office, but already in office. So very important to that. And also, if you want to contribute, become a member in Texas Latino Conservative, we need your help and we need your support. So Orlando, I hope to see you soon back in Houston. I don't know when you're coming back, but obviously looking forward to see you here and spend more time and plan the next year in Texas Latino Conservatives.
Yeah, and I want to take one moment to say, from a personal perspective, campaigns aren't about just the candidate. Campaigns are put together by donors and volunteers, people that are very generous. And, not everyone can win. It's like a baseball game. You don't get a hit every time, or a soccer match. You don't always score a goal. And, but I wanted to take a moment to thank everybody that was involved, those that were very generous to the campaign, those that volunteered their time, those that showed up to the polls to work. So from a personal perspective, I want to say thank you to everyone that participated. We're sorry we fell short, substantially short, but the good news is that I have been in contact with my opponent, Chris Hollins, and sent him a note on election night, and then he has texted me back, and it looks like we're going to get together to talk about some ideas, particularly the public safety district that I had discussed. So, you don't always have to win to make a contribution in your community, as long as your opponents listen to your issues and try to, see if something can be worked out for the benefit of the community. I think that's a positive. And I look forward to meeting with my former opponent, Chris Hollins, and I want to wish him well. But again, I just want to thank my contributors and my volunteers and staff and everybody that worked so hard. It's not easy losing, but again, two teams can't win.
Well, I don't think you're losing. Definitely, we're winning because we're gonna also concentrate on Texas Latino Conservatives. I keep doing what when we're the motivation and everything that we've been doing here in Texas Latino Conservatives. We're doing great things. So I think it's just a lesson learned, and it's not about the candidate. It's about, like, look at you now. Now you're gonna talk to Chris, and it's about the city. It's about our community.
Correct.
All right. Well, thank you, Orlando. And thank you very much, everybody, to stay tuned with us. And I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Nos vemos el próximo miércoles.